I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have been asked to have a slight change in the order due to a time schedule. We have an event that we'd like to get on camera. And Don, just come right up front here. At this time, I'd like to call Curtis Martin and Jim Salmon forward. They have a presentation to make, and I'm assuming you have someone to take the picture. George Bedoukas needs to come up too.
Thank you very much. So as we mentioned before, this is our second annual throwdown event that we did, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. Last year we did the Cuban sandwich. This year we did Taco Tuesday, and the idea is just to kind of raise a little bit of funds for some scholarships. And so in behalf of the faculty leadership, we would like to present this check for $1,300 to the MJC Foundation.
Wonderful. And we've asked Don to help because he's the board representative on the MJC Foundation. So get your pictures in there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for participating in that wonderful event. At this time, I do have a report out from closed session. Today, the board voted to enter into a contract with Henry Yong as Chancellor of YCCD. Pending final board approval in June, he will start July 1. His salary will be $265,000, and the vote was 7-0. So Henry Young will be our new chancellor. Yay. At this time, we'll move for approval of the minutes of the March 29 Board of Trustees retreat. Thank you. Okay, thank you. It's been moved by Abe Rojas, seconded by John Rodriguez to approve the minutes of March 29th. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion has carried. We will move the approval of the minutes of the April 12th regular Board of Trustees meeting. Rather, I'd like someone to move that we approve it.
Second.
Thank you again to Abe and John. Is there any discussion? All right, all those, excuse me, yes.
I have 2 amendments that were provided.
All right, thank you. Would you share them now?
Trustee Rojas attended 2 forums, not interviews, as listed for the MJC Vice President of Instruction position. And Trustee Garrett asked that his request for copies of the Forelli contracts be added to the meeting record.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't ask you earlier. Is it acceptable to Abe and John to approve that as amended? John, I can't see you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the minutes of the April meeting have been approved. And one more. We have the minutes of the April 20th Board of trustees study session. Are there any corrections to that? Okay, if not, then a motion to approve is in order.
Move to approve.
Thank you, John. And second?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. All right. It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the minutes of the April 20th study session. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion has carried. At this point, we allow for public comments. I did not receive any cards, so I'm assuming there are none. Does anyone wish to make public comments? Okay, then we will move to our reports and information items. Get this out of the way. So we have a Modesto Junior College and Columbia College presentation on student success, moving the needle with scalable practices.
Good evening, board. Good evening, everybody. We're going to tag team, and as Jill and I frequently do when we're presenting, and we have two of our colleagues joining us this evening. So it's Jill and I, and then we have Brandon Price, who is the Associate Dean of Student Equity and Success at Columbia College, and then we have Florida Arias, who is the Dean of Equity and Student Success for MJC. So our presentation tonight is going to cover state initiatives, national reform measures, and provide some examples of what Columbia College and MJC are doing to scale up effective student success strategies.
So just a few days ago, our state chancellor, Eloy Oakley, sent out a letter to all of the CEOs addressing our success rate, and in particular, the overall completion rate of a 6-year cohort, which still stands at 48%. And the letter really was intended to affirm that we are doing the work that is important, that we are doing the work that needs to be done, and to continue forward. And then he went on to share many of the projects that are underway in the state of California and being sponsored at some level by the state chancellor's office.
The focus on statewide efforts, a more systematic approach to raise those student success rates, began in around 2011, 2012. And there was a Board of Governors Student Success Task Force that was formed. And over a period, I think, of 12 to 18 months, they came up with 22 recommendations for policy changes that would really help improve educational achievement in California community colleges. And so you can see here, we forgot to ask
Apparently,
Brian.
we're supposed to be moving them.
Well, at least you can't read what we're saying, so that's
Sorry
good.
about
The initiation of student equity plans that all of the colleges were required to focus on, so that all student constituency groups were being paid attention to help enhance the student success efforts across the board. Student success and support programs, the famous SSSP that you hear so much about, the Basic Skills Initiative, and then the Career Pathways Trust Fund and Strong Workforce Program. For the very first time, though, that at least I can remember in the many years that I've been in the system, is that these statewide mandates came with dollars to help us do the in-depth work that all of these strategies entailed. And so the money came with strings attached, though, because there are a lot of tracking and reporting requirements.
Additionally, the State Chancellor's Office has engaged in a variety of other efforts that involved pilot projects and, in some cases, some move forward, move back, move forward again operations as we try to improve the completion of our students. Most of these, I think, are going to be familiar with you because either Columbia College or Modesto Junior College or both have been engaged in the process. And of those, the first one is the Online Education Initiative, which we have heard about recently, multiple measures placement, and I am pleased that MJC has recently adopted multiple measures in a new way that's going to help our students that are coming in from our local high schools. We are hopeful to be able to start in college level courses in math and English. Huge amounts of remedial education reform. Our colleges have been engaged in redesigning what our basic skills look like. The college promise is, in most cases, helping students to cover the cost of their first year of attendance at the community college. California Guided Pathways is just launching. The Common Assessment Initiative, this is the one that has moved in fits and starts. And again, one that the state chancellor has recently been communicating about. An incredible amount of work has been done. This one is especially challenging because even though there were a limited number of options for colleges to use in their assessment placement of students, the way colleges use those instruments has varied vastly. And there's been a determination made that we will have a common assessment, and we're not only that, but we're going to have a common approach to how we place students based upon those scores. And then finally is the Education Planning Initiative. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is the next one. Let's share. Okay. The efforts, though, to improve educational attainment and the success of our students spreads across the nation. And so then some nationwide efforts, and one of such effort is called the Complete College America campaign. And through this initiative, they've identified some key proven success strategies, math pathways, and that is to map out clearly the math progression of classes for students going into various fields. Co-requisite remediation, and that is where students enroll in a lower level, maybe basic skills course and course, math or English, let's use those as an example, and they parallel, so they don't have to, it reduces the amount of time for their completion, so that they can pick up the skills simultaneously. And then 15 to finish. This is an initiative that we recently had a presentation on, or actually a workshop here at MJC. And the idea is that full-time attendance is actually 15 units a semester in order for a student to complete a 2-year program in 2 years. And part of this 15 finish concept, if you include the summers, then you can divide that up. And so if you, as long as you can complete 30 units in a year, no matter how that's divided up between the summer, spring, summer, fall, spring, spring, summer, fall, the idea is to finish 30 units in a year, finish in 2 years. And then structured schedules, also known as block schedules, to where you develop a schedule that has a specific enrollment pattern for students, so students can only take classes in the morning, only take classes in the evening, a collection of courses in the afternoon to where students can still stay on track to complete their programs, and then guided pathways, which we always hear so much about and we're working so hard on, and that is a clear path from a student coming in and then how to achieve their degrees or their transfer pathway.
And also working on a national level is Achieving the Dream, which is a network of community colleges that are committed to evidence-based institutional improvement. And the goal is long-term sustainable commitment to improving success. And among the initiatives that Achieving the Dream has been instrumental in supporting our open educational resources, integrated planning and advising for student success, guided pathways, intrusive advising, and the process of removing barriers for underserved students. So now Dr. Brandon Price is going to share some of the scalable and scaled activities that are ongoing at Columbia College.
Okay, so some of the activities that we're doing to increase student success, first focusing on access. And I realized in looking at this that I left one off. One of our big ones in Access is our Motherlode Educational Opportunity Center, where we have a grant where we're serving 1,000 students a year just to encourage those students to go into post-secondary education. So we're helping them do applications, financial aid, if they're not college ready, to go and get their GEDs, things like that. So, and we have to serve 1,000 students a year in that. So that definitely is to scale. But additionally, we're really focusing on expanding our dual enrollment. Our middle college is expanding, starting in the fall, as you know, because you approved them. We're going to be doing the College and Career Access Partnership, or Pathway Partnership Agreements. And so we'll be offering college classes in the high schools during the normal high school day. So we're very excited about that. And then, of course, in dual enrollment, we also have articulated courses where high school students are taking classes at the high school, but then they're getting credit when they come to college for those courses. Thanks to the Adult Education Block Grant, we're expanding adult education, looking at serving individuals that we haven't served in the past with those. And then we're making big efforts to increase our access to incarcerated individuals. Fall of 15, we started off with 3 classes, and I think we had about 20 classes this last spring. So that program is really growing by leaps and bounds, and I think we're going to have more in the fall. We're also trying to not only get more students in, but of course, as we talked about earlier in this presentation, get students to complete. That's what we're really looking for. And so as Jill talked about, we have multiple measures. Columbia's and MJC's almost mirror each other. Both of us have recently added the MMAP recommendation, so more ways for high school students to get into college level coursework without having to go back and take remediation that they don't need. These instruments are more predictive than the assessment models that we use, like AccuPlacer anyway, so why wouldn't we use them? We'll be moving to the Common Assessment Initiative. We're developing classes like Path to Stats, so students that aren't STEM students don't necessarily have to take Algebra 1 and 2. There's more politics around that I'm not going to probably get into here, but that's another thing that we're working on. Planning and guidance is a huge thing for us. We have student ambassadors helping students to get appointments for educational plans. We're developing clear guides to show students how to get to completion, and we'll be implementing the Educational Planning Initiative next year. I wanted to spotlight one activity that we've put a lot of focus on at Columbia and Modesto Junior College too, which is having more students complete comprehensive educational plans. If a student has a plan, they're more likely to complete, which makes pretty much common sense, I think, there. And we have much higher rates, so does Modesto, than the state average in terms of comprehensive educational plan. And in the SSSP initiative, this is where, aside from just your FTS, doing comprehensive educational plans is where they give you the most money, because this is what the thing they're saying is going to make the biggest difference. So you can see Columbia's comprehensive educational planning, the number of first-time students that are doing a comprehensive educational plan has gone from 24% to 73%. You can see the huge focus that we're putting on this area.
So this page is just Columbia?
That is just Columbia, but I will say that looking at the SSSP data, Modesto has much higher comprehensive educational plans than the statewide average too. So, but this is just Columbia. And as a result, you can see that our award counts are way up. I think this may overstate it a little bit. This was fantastic, going from 248 to 450, but we had some larger class sizes, of course, in 2010 too. So I want to make that known too. But the bottom line for us in terms of the bottom line for money is that you can see that our SSSP allocation is much higher than the state average, and that's in large part because we do so many comprehensive educational plans. Where the state is saying, you need to have students do a comprehensive educational plan by the time they hit 15 units, we're like, hey, a student who's taking 6 units in their first semester, let's get them in here and do a comprehensive educational plan. We don't want to wait to lose them the first semester and then not do one. I think that's it for me.
Yes, good evening. So acceleration at scale at MJC. In the past 2 years, the English department has focused its energy on bringing scalability and acceleration, such as English 45, English 100. For English 45, this is a 6-unit class that allows students to go through English 49 and through English 50 in one semester. For English 100, it allows students to take the English 50 and English 101 in one semester. This has become a huge difference because prior to this, students who placed at 2 levels below the transfer level, they had to take up to 13 units. And now, presently, students only need to take 6 units, and they're up to their English, their college level English course. For English 100, we will begin in the fall of 2017, so we're really excited. The faculty has modeled the pilot course for the fall of 2017 in creating one common course with common assignments. Reading apprenticeship is also another big win for Modesto Junior College because it has increased student success in courses across curriculum. Faculty in literature and language arts have undergone reading apprenticeship training along with tutors in the Writing Center in order to support students taking the acceleration courses. So this is huge for us. For the English learners and non-credit at scale, the English language instruction for college, also known as ELEC, has begun a new sequence series, which allows students that are English learners to stay within the sequence course right through English 101. So this is the first time that there's actual connection between the English learner cohort that are able to, when they're finished with the course series, they're able to complete English 101. So that's a huge win for Modesto Junior College also. We believe that it will positively impact the English program. The MJC librarians have created a 2-3-hour non-credit course that will allow students to complete informational literacy certificate. It will help students learn how to do research, topic selection, locating and evaluating sources, and academic integrity. This summer, math will also have a new credit series that will begin July 3rd. The math non-credit courses will give students a no cost to completing the skills they need for Math 10 and Math 20, which is pre-algebra. Students will be in a computer lab with an instructor working only through the skills that they need at their own pace. Curricular redesign at scale. For Humanities 101, which is one of the top 20 largest enrollment courses at Modesto Junior College, within the framework of Common Ground Project, the faculty decided to redesign their course using Central Valley examples. In the fall of 2015, before the course redesign, data would reveal that the success gap between the highest and lowest performing groups was 40.8%. In the fall of 2016, after the first semester, students had taken advantage of the new redesigned course. The success gap was only 7.7% between the highest performing group and the lowest performing group. So we're very excited about that course. Another course that has been redesigned is the multidisciplinary First Time in College course. It launched in the summer of 2016 with 10 sections, now approaching scale with 30 sections for the fall of 2017. Communication at scale. Where do I point? Here we go. In order to have communication at scale, we're providing technology and training through various platforms that we use to communicate with students. One is Starfish by Hobson, which we will use as early alert and integrated advising. The integrated advising success team will be comprised of the college counselor, the success specialist, and the faculty advisor. Naviance is a program or a platform that we have used and have gone live this month to communicate with our high school students. This platform is commonly used among high school students, and we believe it will have a strong communication level with our high school seniors, and we'll be able to track as they onboard onto our college campus. So we're very excited. K through 12 partnerships at scale. So like Brandon indicated, that we're also involved with dual enrollment with CCAP. We are scheduled to begin the spring of 18 with 3 new agreements through Modesto City Schools series at this time. We have begun to talk to Patterson, Turlock, and Waterford School District. The other thing that we have is intentional onboarding experience. Through high school visits, we provide assistance with course steps, orientation, assessment, and advising at their own school sites. Students can also now use the multiple measures guidelines that they can use for better placement, English, for better placement in English and math. They can use the high school GPA, EAP, SAT, or AP scores. New Student Days and Pirates Day allow students to connect with college programs, their college counselor, their faculty advisor, and the group with associated students of Modesto Junior College. We also have student support at scale. We have 2 Success Pathway Centers that went live this past fall of 2016 for both East and West. In it, students can receive a comprehensive one-stop shop where students can drop in without having an appointment. They have access to assistance with matriculation, counseling, navigating through the college student portals and online classroom platforms. Specialists are also embedded in the academic areas and provide a strong and consistent presence in our high school. The English for Life and Work have established a new English language learner welcome center that has enabled a stronger presence in our community. So resulting from our student focus groups a year ago, students expressed interest in receiving help with transportation, food, and a stronger mentor within the male population, a stronger mentor support program. So what has transpired after that is under Dr. James Todd, students now receive a free access to all citywide and countywide transportation. So we're very excited, beginning July 1st, all current MJC students will be able to have unlimited access to bus transportation, both within Modesto and also Stanislaus County. So we're very excited. The Male Collaborative, which we call an incubator project, it has not gone up to scale, but we're very hopeful. We started with 40 students, and we're now at 218. There is intentional early alert, intrusive advising, and mentorship from faculty and community citizens. We finally also have professional development at scale. The college has invested a lot within our faculty and staff. Through the University of Southern California, they have focused on helping faculty review course data, set strategic goals, and guide action into linking practice with student outcomes. So we're very excited about that. The California Acceleration Project also has trained various English and math faculty, which has allowed us to develop English 45 and English 100. Reading Apprenticeship has also allowed for faculty, not only English faculty, but multidisciplinary faculty to learn new skills on teaching students how to read the course requirements. Also, there has been a book reading and discussion project called Redesigning America's Community Colleges. These discussion sessions have been held during division meetings that has allowed great foundational conversation as we begin our Pathways project. Thank you.
Well, I'll read to you. So, Achieving the Dream has a definition of student success that says, student success means so much more than a personal goal secured. It means improved skills, better employability, and economic growth for families, communities, and our nation as a whole. And so student success at scale, the intended outcomes are to close achievement gaps, increase overall success for all of our students, reduce time to completion, and allow our students to thrive.
Questions for us?
I have one minor question, but Abe, did you? There was so much in that report. It's kind of overwhelming. I have a question for the acceleration at scale, like the English 45 and the English 100, which are 6-unit courses. How is that 6 unit spread out? What if I took that? What would my schedule look like? Is it 2 days a week, 5 days a week? What does it look like? Can anybody answer that?
Some sections that are every day. Yes.
It's scheduled a variety of ways.
Okay.
So.
Some would be blocked and some would be every day.
Okay. Well, that's really, there's a great deal in there, and it's very exciting and wonderful presentation. Thank all of you who participated. Okay. At this point, we'll move to 4.2, the accreditation updates. And Brian Sanders and James Todd, so you can decide.
Good evening, members of the board. I do intend to read through all of these papers. Just joking. Al wants the short version tonight. But we're making very good progress on our self-evaluation report. I've been working on it really the last couple of days, and we're up against a self-imposed deadline of next week, Wednesday of next week, to get a thorough draft to the College Council for their approval so that we can get it onto your next board agenda as a first reading. And that is an aggressive timeline, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to achieve that. If not, we'll still have first reading and a second reading in August at the latest. But we continue to work on our edits. These documents are just a series of edits and pages that we're working on. Various different readers across the college are making comments and telling us which evidence pieces need to be inserted. The pieces that are remaining include our quality-focused essay. And you just heard about one of the topics of that. As we're doing the accreditation self-study, we're asked to identify a couple of topics where we need to improve and to develop some plans to do that over the next 3 to 4 years. One of those topics is, as Brandon was talking about, completion of programs by our students. So we have high course success rates and relatively low program completion rates. And so we're going to explore that and try to figure out what those causes are. The other issue that we're working on is student learning outcomes and how to effectively use the results of outcomes assessment for program improvement and for budget development. So on that note, a couple weeks ago, we had a second visit from the partnership resource team from a collection of individuals from different colleges, and they came and we met together and we talked about what we're doing with SLOs, and they helped us develop a plan of action for how to make that work. And then the plan of action that we developed through the PRT becomes the QFE in our ICER. And so those pieces are all working together. So, do you have any questions for us? Very good.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, James?
Good evening. How are you? It's good to see you. Hope you've had a good month. And I guess we haven't had an accreditation update for a couple of months. I think we didn't have it on the last agenda. So we've been hard at work. Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised with the progress that we've made over the last couple of months going through each one of our drafts. So one of the things that took us by surprise was the latest manual that was published by the ACCJC for evaluators. And what we decided to do with our narratives was to go through each section of the standards and make sure that we address the criteria that evaluators are looking for inside of our narrative. So it's required quite a bit of rewriting. But the result has been really pleasing, and I feel like it flows well. We've been working really hard with Nancy Sill, our faculty accreditation chair, to help us attach evidence. We're inside of the timeline that we promised the Curtis and the Academic Senate. They are going to look at this in, I think on June 8th and June 15th is when they're going to look at for a first and a second reading with Nancy. So right now where we are inside of the narratives is we're pushing for next week to really have them kind of all positioned out and then starting attaching more evidence so that we can kind of have a late May deadline for us to have our own completion. I don't think we're going to beat Brian to getting this for a first read on the next agenda, but we will have it to you for July to look at and have some conversation about. A couple of other things that we're working on, our QFE, our quality focus essay as well has emerged. One of the things they explained to us at the accreditation conference was talk about something you're already doing that you know is going to benefit your institution. And so with our entrance into the Guided Pathways project, that's going to be one of the themes that we're talking about, mainly redesigning and advising for students and also coming up with some curricular pathways for them. And I think as well as any institution in the state, part of what is difficult for colleges is to do really true evaluation of work and have a process for that. I mean, if you look at our college in general, we've done great with building data. Matter of fact, we almost have too much data in some points. If you go to our research and planning site, there's a lot of data there. And we've disseminated it, but it's also making that long process of how do you use the data, how do you make changes with that data, and then how do you evaluate what you did. And so part of our quality focus essay as well is improving those processes, which is what we're supposed to do through accreditation work. Just one other note, we did get a letter back this week, or last week, which was really nice, that we don't have to do some substantive change reports for a few of our degrees that we had submitted for them to look at. Were perfect as they were some ag and environmental science degrees and some other certificates. So that's our report, and I look forward to talking with you in about a month or 2 months from now about our finalized report. Is there any questions?
Okay, well, thank you so much, James.
Thank
Appreciate
you
that.
very much.
Now we'll move to 4.3, the association reports. The first would be the Student Senate activity reports. I don't know who to look for in the audience. Do we have anyone from MJC? Welcome. Come tell us who you are and be happy to hear what's going on.
Good evening, trustee members. My name is Cindy Lopez. I am the new president-elect for ASMJC for this coming up year. I'll be giving today's reports. First of all, I'd like to thank Siegfried for reporting on ASMJC's behalf for the last board meeting up in Columbia. Thank you, Siegfried. I'm happy to say that ASMJC is wrapping up a very successful and record-breaking year. For the entire year, ASMJC fed over 10,000 students with our Flow event. ASMJC held over 60 events this year. On April 19th, Campus Life held its 22nd annual gala. Over 100 students were recognized for their success. Students received awards for academic excellence and project lead, ASMJC, clubs, and more. Last year, the average GPA for ASMJC was 2.64. This year, its GPA was 3.45.
Ooh.
Yes. On April 20th, Spring Cram Night was also another successful event. Over 120 students attended to study for their finals. On April 21st, ASMJC participated in the graduation luncheon serving our graduates. Personally, it was an amazing experience. 12 out of 21 ASMJC members graduated. Many of them transferred to a four-year university. 2 of them got accepted into UC Davis and UC Berkeley. It's exciting to say that 19 out of 21 ASMJC members finished the semester with a 3.0 GPA or above. That's it for my report. Any questions?
Well, Cindy, thank you so much. And for your first time, you did great, and we'll look forward to seeing you coming along, and congratulations on your election.
Thank
Yes,
you.
congratulations.
Siegfried, do you have something from Columbia?
I do.
Thank you.
Really just 2 things. So Aaron mentions that ASCC has elected a new board, and it will be the largest incoming board they've ever had. And then student trustee elections, although they've been postponed, they will be taking place tomorrow at both Columbia College and Modesto Junior College. So a little bit later than usual, but nonetheless, still looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you so much. Now let's move to the Leadership Team Advisory Council, LTAC.
Good evening.
Evening.
I've been asked to share a letter with the board tonight from a recipient of PEP funds, Gail Brabant, Assistant Director. I've been a recipient of PEP funds for the last 3 years, and it's helped me tremendously. I just completed my bachelor's degree in December, and I'm currently enrolled in my master's program. So I'm happy to share some good news with you tonight. The letter was addressed to Gina, our Vice Chancellor of Human Resources, and I'll get started. Attending the 7 Habits for Managers, April 26th through 27th, 2017, via live online conferencing was very informative and meaningful. I have previously attended several Franklin Covey trainings, and they always deliver outstanding leadership training. Over the course of 2 days, we learned strategies that will be helpful in working with our staff at CDTC, the Child Development Training Consortium, as well as interacting with the public. The foundation to being a successful leader is built on managing self before managing others. I know this to be true from years of working with colleagues at the Child Development Training Consortium. Balancing work and personal life is critical to building positive working relationships. I learned new strategies to seek creative alternatives to challenges, use available resources to reach goals, to further develop listening skills, and to focus on the important, not just the urgent issues that arise daily. Unleashing the potential of those I work with is a skill I hope to develop as a result of attending this training. Attending a live online training was a new experience for me, and I really enjoyed the process. We were able to interact both verbally and written. The materials that accompanied the training are fantastic and will be a great resource for the coming years. Thank you for the opportunity to attend this training. I truly appreciate the support of YCCD through PEP funds. This conference enriched my professional development, and I look forward to sharing this information with others. And Gail Brabant is a wonderful lady. I don't know if you've met her, but I've worked with her for several years. So, and that's all I have to report. Any questions?
I have a question. What are PEP funds?
Oh, they're the professional program funds. So I think members are entitled to, I think, $1,500 a year or $2,000 reimbursement for courses that they take for professional development.
It was established years ago by Chancellor Tom Van Groningen to promote leaders in the district and assist them in attending
Okay. Okay, so that's coming out of the money that he donated, not some departments, or no?
Back then, it did come out of some one-time funding that we established in a Fund 12. The donation that Tom Van Groningen gave is a separate fund for
Okay.
the Leadership Academy here at the district.
Okay.
This is for any leadership team member can apply through their manager and present what their goal is, if you will, and then they can receive that money to go forward.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, appreciate that. YFA? No report, okay. CSEA, I believe Sherry Suarez is giving the report tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I'm stepping in for Debbie as she's on vacation, well-deserved vacation, I should say. First of all, we wanted to start by thanking everybody who has participated this year throughout any of the college events and with our students. Both MJC and Columbia has just had their commencements programs. They were both a huge success. Modesto Junior College had 526 participants walk across the stage. Columbia had 132. I think that that's a fantastic accomplishment for both colleges. Commencement is the icing on the cake for all of us, the hard work that the students put in throughout the whole year. We have amazing teams at both colleges. Classified faculty and administration are in the background, helping to make each student successful. This is truly our jobs. I want to thank everybody here in attendance tonight who participated in commencement. And for those of you who were not able to participate, I want to encourage you to do so next year because it is truly an amazing experience with the students. Classified are looking forward to the celebration week coming up. We want to thank you for that. We have been in our negotiations with the district, and we are making progress in negotiations. So I also wanted to thank, and I didn't think she'd be here tonight, but wanted to thank Catherine. She's kind of on her first rodeo with us this year. So we just want to thank her and the district team for us to make those progress in negotiations. The classified are anxiously awaiting new chancellor, and as that was announced tonight, so we can get that information out. So we want to thank you for that, as this new chancellor will lead us in the future directions that both colleges are going to be heading into. So we do appreciate that. One last thing that I wanted to kind of say to everybody, I was in George Bedrukas's office quite a few months ago, and I saw this little, he calls it a table tent card in his office, and I got reading it, and it was kind of interesting to me, so I asked him about it. And George said that he was told a gentleman by the name of Hubert J. Taylor had started a business back in the 1920s. He was doing okay, but he needed something else to help him be successful in his business. So he came up with the following questions in regards to things we think, say, and do. And this is called the four-way test. The questions are, is this the truth? Is it fair to all who is concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Through Mr. Taylor's practice of these concepts in his leadership role, it started resonating down to his employees and then eventually out to his customer base. His business thrived after that. The Modesto Rotary Club now recites this four-way test at every one of their meetings. I have this on my desk at work, and I do look at it every day, look at the questions. And I think that these questions are not only good in our personal lives, but our professional lives as well. And I think that if we started out by looking at these and the way we think, say, and do for students, and think of it in that aspect, I believe that these questions are relevant for our organization as well, after our students are our customer base. My hope is that these concepts would resonate throughout all employees and that we truly embrace why we are really here. Thank you.
Thank you. No questions. Thank you. At this point, we don't have a faculty representative to the board, do we? So we'll skip that. For the Academic Senate activity reports, do we have two people here, Curtis? I don't know. Hey, all right, solo time. Go for it.
And you don't get to use the balance of Jim's time either.
I thought I could use that. Well, first I want to thank Wendy, whose term ended, I guess, a few days ago, and who retired. She's been a really good companion over the last 2 years at these board meetings. And with her, we were able to establish very close connections between Columbia and MJC on a series of issues. And that's an important thing. We've sort of been a district, sort of sometimes disconnected. The college is disconnected somewhat from each other. So the teacher, well, first of all, good evening, happy summer. Classes started on Monday. And the teacher and me sort of came out as Jill and Angie and Fred were giving their presentation. Is it quiz time? Can you name 5 of the initiatives that were presented to you?
All right, let's see.
A close book, it's a close book, Anne.
I see.
Okay. If you feel
Pathways.
overwhelmed, and you mentioned you feel overwhelmed, you have the right feeling, because these things came at us one after the other very quickly. In fact, throughout the state, there's a term for it. It's called initiative fatigue, literally. And it's amazing that it got very confusing at one point, but I think we've sort of sorted it out. And the reason I say that is because all these things that are there, probably the main purposes are to close the achievement gaps and to accelerate success. The cohort of 48 that Jill presented, actually that's over 6 years. Hopefully we could talk about cohorts of 4 years or 3 years rather than 6 years. And MJC last week, we had a first-time meeting that was called, what did we call it? I wrote it here. First-time meeting. It was called Assessment, Reflection, and Celebration, where the members of the different councils and committees came together to sort of look at what we had done last year and sort of start planning for next year. And this is something that I find fundamental in an institution when so many things are coming at us, is that we stand still for a moment and sort of reflect both backwards and also sort of project forward. And I'm hoping that this will be, every year we'll be able to do that. It brings people together, it gives us a sort of a roadmap of where we're going, and especially with accreditation and guided pathways coming at us very quickly, it's going to be more important to for everyone to be on board. The last thing I wanted to talk about was that all these initiatives are good. Now we have to find the metrics to measure whether they're successful. Okay, and one of the ways that we do that at the institution is through program review. And we have a new program review coming online. There's a program review work group, and James Todd and I have been working, and James Palmer have been working very hard to get a pilot out this summer. And it promises to be the kind of program review that really will help us measure whether these initiatives and what we're doing are being successful. And that's my report for today. If you have any questions.
Hey, Curtis, thank you so much. At this point, we'll move on to 4.4, activities and announcements. We'll start with Modesto Junior College. Jill?
Good evening, and thank you very much. We have prepared a list of all of our activities, and I would just like to thank the great commencement team who makes all of that possible at MJC. This year we had some challenge with wind, but it didn't slow us down, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to celebrate our students' achievement. And it was very well attended by our faculty and staff, and I agree with Kurt, everyone acknowledging that Michelle really took that on and did a great job of getting people involved in our commencement. If you haven't read number 1 about our Disability Student of the Year, Richie Rongren really is a trailblazer. And I was really not aware that the nursing profession does not include individuals with hearing disability. And so to have a deaf individual who actually decided to get double cochlear implants be a graduate of our nursing program is really an amazing feat, and it was fabulous at their celebration to hear our nursing director share her own personal growth during his journey in the program and that of our faculty as they worked with an individual with a significant disability in this field. So he was awarded a very special award by the nursing program. So tonight we are missing our nursing alumni dinner fundraiser, and it's always the best chicken Alfredo you can find. But they do a tremendous job, but we appreciate that you're here at the board meeting instead. We do have opportunity to celebrate this week, though, as our athletics is hosting their annual beer, wine, and food tasting fundraiser, and that'll be Friday at 6 p.m. in Mary Stuart Rogers here on West Campus. And I would just like to end by saying that this morning when I walked across the quad, it was beautiful. The grass had been watered overnight. It had recently been mowed and trimmed, and Everything was blowed off. And I thought, this is just amazing. It has not looked better in the 5 years I have been here. The rain has helped tremendously, but the care that our grounds team is putting into maintaining the lawns that we are able to water, it really has had huge dividends. And that is just a fabulous space for our students on campus this summer. So my thanks to our grounds team. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Angie, let's hear about activities and announcements at Columbia.
Well, I gave you in my report a couple of end-of-the-year events, but I wanted to highlight the Student Learning Outcomes Work Group work. They've done tremendous work, especially this last year. The faculty and staff involved have just made leaps and bounds in the transition to eLumen and ramping up our student learning outcomes assessment efforts. And so, you know, we've been really proud, and we've been cheering them along and hearing reports of their work. But just when I thought it couldn't get any better, the last week of the semester and the first few weeks of the few days of when faculty were turning in grades, they set up in the rotunda literally an SLO camp. And the idea was, as faculty were coming to certify their grades to A&R, that they could also seek help at the camp, and they had camp chairs, a one-person tent, they had a little mock campfire, they had drinks, they had snacks, they had treats.
S'mores.
And they had support, Raylene and Joey Partridge, who has been providing some tech support, and then Danielle. They took, and other SLO support, the mentors, faculty mentors, took turns on a rotating schedule to be there to provide support. But they did it in a fun way, to where we're here, you're here, let's get together, we'll show you how to map your SLOs, we'll show you how to log your data, we'll provide that support. And so they made it a fun event, but really highlighted the fact that SLO assessment doesn't have to be intimidating. It is a fact of what we have to do, but let's make it productive and let's make it fun. So I wanted to really point out, especially Raylene Juarez and Joey Partridge, for the work that they have done this year with the eLumen transition and the training that goes along with that, with the technology and the new platform. So, and I've given you the names of the SLO work group, who also deserve recognition.
Okay, thank you so much, Angie. Now we'll go to the presentation and updates from our interim chancellor, Jane Harmon.
All right. I'd like to start by introducing Karen Trimble, who is our interim vice chancellor of IT, and this is only her second week, and she definitely hit the ground running. So I just really want to thank her for stepping in for this period of time. Thank you.
Welcome.
Classified School Employee Week is coming up. This is the California Legislature has recognized the important contributions of CSEA, the classified school employees, and named the third full week of May 21st to 27th, Classified School Employee Week, to honor their contributions. And we will be honoring them on Monday, May 22nd at Columbia, and Tuesday, May 23rd and 25th here in the boardroom, with a combination of MJC and YCCD classified. And not only are you going to get refreshments, but I'm going to do some problem-solving exercises with you that actually are fun. So I'm looking forward to getting a chance to meet with all of you. We also have another event, the All-Campus Summer Employee event that's coming up. It's YCCD Fabulous 50s Fling, which will be held on Thursday, May 18th at noon in the Egg Pavilion. And it sounds like there's lots of activities. It sounds like it's going to be lots of fun. What's the time on that again, Gina?
12 noon, it says here.
Oh, here, it says 12 noon, sorry. And then we also have our student trustee is going to be, this is his last meeting, and so we wanted to recognize Siegfried your contribution to this board. I've worked with many student trustees, and you have been just a delight to work with. You're full of questions, you're eager to learn, you bring a wonderful perspective from students, and I can speak as your chancellor, and I know I've heard from the board too, how much they appreciate what you've brought. And so, so if you would like to come over, we have a plaque for you. We're going to get a picture. Push this back. Okay. Come on, in between, the rose between two thorns. Yosemite Community College District Board of Trustees recognizes Siegfried Gutensperger, I get to say it with a Swiss accent, student trustee in appreciation of your distinguished service 2016 to 2017.
Thank you.
All
right.
You're welcome.
I will, actually.
We'll get the
Get back
picture
to your
first.
seat. Oh.
We'll get the picture.
I would love that, actually,
Oh.
but if I would.
Let's just do this. You got
Okay,
the other
okay,
one.
okay,
We'll
that's
give
true,
you
that's
one
true.
of the other ones for everybody. All right.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I'd like to give Siegfried the opportunity to make any comments should you want to do that.
Thank you, and it's been an incredible honor. I don't really know what to say. I wasn't even intended to. How do I put this? Part of my being here is a complete accident, and it's a very good accident. If it weren't for Brian, Justin, and Mark sitting in the crowd, I wouldn't have been sat down and sitting here today. But there's also all the other mentors that are part of this that have really taught me and guided me well. Connie Chavez for teaching me policy, and Jan Matthews and Graciela Molina in regards to just working with my schedule and being able to manage all of my conferences and my travels. And the board as well, all of the mentorship and all the teaching that I've received. Not a lot of students know about this position, and it's still very, very well hidden. It's one of the things I'm still working on. We'll be working on after this too. But my term has been a very interesting one. Not only have I been able to be one of the only student trustees to have met in 3 different boardrooms, but I've been able to work with an amazing board and an amazing chancellor and everybody else who's been able to work with me. It made it really special. I don't want to take too much time, but during graduation, having graduated this year as well, being able to hug the people that usually just shake hands, that's pretty intense. That's something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. And I just want to thank you all. So.
Well, Siegfried, we've really enjoyed having you. Because I'm afraid I might forget this, tell us what your plans are for your future right now as you know them.
So, as of right now, I'm going to be completing my computer science degree online. I am still between choices of either Western Governors University or CSU Monterey Bay. And so if it were WGU, I'd be starting in July. I'm still working on curriculum details. If it's CSU Monterey Bay, I'd be starting in the spring. Either way, I'm looking forward to getting it done.
And are you going to be still around this summer?
I will be around for at least the summer because I'll be working with IT. There's a chance I'll be here in the fall as well, but it's time for me to move on.
Okay. Do you want to say something?
Well, Siegfried, I've enjoyed working with you, and I know we've spent some other time together that I really enjoyed as well, so thank you for that opportunity, but I think you're missing something here before we end this. You have anybody in the audience you'd like to recognize?
Oh, yeah. Could my parents please stand up? They haven't attended all year, but I decided to make academia nut cookies um, in light of this being my last board meeting, and I can't thank you guys enough. So,
Well, actually,
everybody actually, but
and we will be having a reception after.
thanks.
For you.
Good.
That's my report.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's see if I can find it where we are. We'll move on to 4.7, the bond update. Okay, so Matt?
Good evening, Matt Kennedy with Kitchell. I'll be doing the bond update, if it's on here. Okay. Matt Kennedy with Kitchell. I'll be doing the bond update, and it doesn't look like we have it on the.
Can't imagine the pressure of having to come up and try to fix this while everybody's waiting and. Yes, it does.
Everything to do with IT.
We could be like Vanna White. And
Got somehow got into settings. Why don't I have?
Yeah, actually, the board does have the black and white pictures, so we have that.
All right. So the status update on the Measure E bond projects. At Modesto Junior College.
Matt, if you could speak closer to the microphone, thank you so much.
So at Modesto Junior College, the projects we're going to do a status update on: West Campus roads, the East and West Campus painting projects, and at Columbia College, we're going to talk about the renovation of the Lower Manzanita building, the Pinion building, and the fiber optic upgrade there. So the first project is on the West Campus roads, what we call Phase 2B, which is the entry area along Brink Avenue. So it's a Brink Avenue entry with the roundabout that connects to Student Center Drive. If you've been over on that side of the campus, you can see that it's under construction currently. The area has been fenced off, and a bypass road is in place, so we can still enter at the existing. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back one. That one. Okay. So we can enter along Brink Avenue. The red area that you see there is the area that's under construction. It's under construction right now. It's a large roundabout that's being installed, and the connection to the rest of the campus along Student Center Drive. This phase of the project is about $1.2 million in construction cost. And we will have this complete August 18th. That's our completion date. The next phase of the road projects will be the parking lot around the old district office buildings. So that's what we call phase 3. That's the phase 3 and the final phase of the road projects. I did want to go back and kind of get a blow up of the area along Brink Avenue so you can see the new entry point. The entry now comes in at a 90-degree angle to Brink Avenue and connects the two, kind of the new pathway or the loop around the campus. That's the area where the construction is happening right now. And then the phase 2 area blow up, this shows the parking lot where the district office building, the old district central services buildings are located. You can see that there's a new entry point, so that gives new entry into the loop of the campus. It's at that entry point occurs where there's the 3-way stop sign right now. So that's our new entry point, and it'll have the ticketing for parking passes there. So that's the area that will be under construction. The area, the parking that we're losing there during construction is primarily staff parking. It's kind of the least used staff parking. To do this work, to demolish the buildings, we have an abatement project, which will start in June. And the demolition of the buildings is scheduled for August. Moving on to the painting projects. We divided this painting into a series of phases to complete incrementally on both campuses. Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 is, we just bid it, and I have the numbers here. Bid yesterday for $326,000. Our phase 2, which is the yellow projects. And the good news is that's well under our estimate. So that will allow additional buildings to be painted. So our phase 2 is bid now, and we'll go into construction. The phase 3, we are planning to bid in June. And then phase 4 will be the remaining projects we'll bid after that. We haven't set a schedule for that painting yet. On to Columbia College. At Columbia, we are working on the lower level of Manzanita, the culinary arts program. It's moving along very well. The equipment starts to move in. The kitchen equipment part will start to move in on the 15th of this month. These photographs are a little aged because of the presentation was submitted quite a while ago, so lots more happening there. So the schedule right now is the 15th. Equipment starts to move in, and we'll be able to turn it over in July. July 10th is our date where the college can take over and start stocking and doing their prep for the culinary program. Also up at Columbia with the renovation of the Pinion Project. And it's actually complete now, and it's been moved in. So we're complete on that project. This is some of the interiors of the Pinion. And then the last project is the fiber optic upgrade at Columbia College, and it's kind of a new backbone, fiber backbone for the campus, and that is also complete now. We've completed that. So also in your packet, you have the budgets and schedules for all the projects, and a quarterly expenditure report is in this packet. But I'll go ahead and ask if there's any questions that I can answer.
I have one question on Pinion. What is that building used for? What is the function or use of the Pinion building?
Oh, Pinion? The Pinion is health services.
Okay.
Health service.
Because I didn't see any classrooms or anything. I was trying to figure it out.
Health services, yeah. I should have pointed that out.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's health services.
Are there other questions?
I have
John?
a general question. When does the bond end?
The bond, 90% of the projects will be complete by the end of this year. There is some projects that will linger on into the next year, but we're at the very end of the bond program.
I have more of a question for Teresa. So the only money that's going to be left over when you look at the schedule here that was provided is basically the contingency money for each college and then for central services, correct?
Right, and then later in the agenda, we'll be bringing amended budgets for Modesto and Columbia, doing that very thing, closing out projects and moving that money to contingency. I'll leave that at that. Next month, we'll talk to you about another project that's we're going to bring to you. But yes, it'll be the contingencies, and then the colleges will prioritize if they haven't already. I think they probably have some ideas where they want that contingency money to go. If we save money on the roads, we know that we have the parking lot yet to do out here.
And I may have asked this before, I mean, with the contingency money that we have set aside, which is very small, given our maintenance needs at both colleges, is there any way we can leverage any of that with the recent statewide bond measure that was passed?
No, not for the GO bonds.
Okay. Because we have, what, about 114 million maintenance needs here at MJC and approximately 20 million up at Columbia, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yes.
So it's not even going to scratch the surface.
That's right.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Matt, thank you so much. At this point, we'll move on to the consent agenda, but there are a couple of additions or corrections, Gina, that you would like to do?
Yes, just a couple corrections, and these have already been provided to the clerk, so I'll go through them. On the reorganization, item 5.10, regarding events, facilities, and duplicating and reprographics, over on page 2, both in B and C, item number 3, the title of that position is reprographics coordinator, and right now it says specialist. So item 3 is reprographics coordinator, and then down in under C, it's also Jonathan Goodrich as being assigned as the reprographics coordinator. And then on item 5.11, the personnel table that you see each month, down under appointment of administrator educational, Jenny Abbott is being appointed as the Dean of Institutional Effectiveness, period. No and research. It's subsumed in the job description, so we don't need all the additional long title.
And that's the end of the changes? I know you just have another one. Gina, is that the end of the changes? Okay, thank you so much. I believe this consent agenda is something we can all vote on, so
Is there any items that need to be addressed separately? If not?
no.
If not, I'll move we approve the consent agenda. Items number 5.1 through 5.12. And at the same time, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Mary Deborah York for 11 and a half years in the Admissions and Records Office.
Thank you. That was moved by Abe Rojas and seconded by Don Viss. Is there any further discussion or comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion has carried. Now we'll move to the action items. We'll go to 6.1, Modesto Junior College Education Master Plan. Is there anyone who'd like to speak about it? It's a very impressive document. Very well done.
Jill?
So I think you ought to brag about it before we just approve it.
Well, if you won't.
I'm very excited about it. We had a task force work group that worked on putting together an educational master plan, and I will tell you, this is the first one I have ever seen that truly is a plan. Every college has one, and they tend to be about the size of an accreditation self-study, and they tend to just be facts and data about the institution. And we actually have something that is an internal guiding work document. So it's fabulous.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jane. There you go. It's on.
I take with me a backpack of best practices wherever I go. And I want to tell you that this is definitely going in that backpack. This is a fantastic plan, and I'm so impressed with all the work that you put into this, and I understand you're already starting to implement. So, thank you.
Well, congratulations to everyone who worked on this to make it to this final form. So I would appreciate a motion to approve the MJC Educational Master Plan for 2017 through 2022. Okay, it's been moved by Leslie Beggs and seconded by?
I'll second it.
Lynn Martin, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is carried unanimously. Now we'll move on to the Columbia College Child Care Center Agency Annual Report. Angie, do you have any comments on this?
This is an annual report that we're required to submit by the funding agency, but it's a reflective, it's like a program review that also incorporates feedback from the families that are served through the center.
Okay, is there a motion to? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Abe Rojas, seconded by Darren Garrett, to approve the recommendation for the Columbia Child Care Center. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion has carried. Now we'll move on to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee membership. It's being proposed that we appoint 2 new individuals.
Actually, they're second terms.
Second term.
2-year terms for both the individuals.
Thank you. Joseph Aha and Sherry Fowler. Is there?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. It's been moved by Darren Garrett and seconded by Abe Rojas that the board approve the recommendation on the individuals to continue their service on the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion has carried. Now we'll move on to the Modesto Junior College Measure E, Proposed Budget Adjustments.
And yes, as I just mentioned, excuse me, we are bringing the budget adjustments to this board for closing out projects and moving any remaining unspent balances into contingencies for the colleges then to reallocate those funds. So we ask for your approval to move any unspent funds in the areas that are highlighted in your board agenda item down to contingency and move forward for Mid-Esther Junior College.
Actually, that would have been nice to have it highlighted. They were,
Yours aren't?
no.
I'm sorry.
But
Ours are.
I looked and looked, and I finally found it, so I highlighted.
They're highlighted on the screen.
I apologize for that. We'll get that next time.
Okay, I'm not on that, so.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Okay. It's been moved by John Rodriguez that we approve the recommendation. Seconded by Abe Rojas. Thank you. Abe, you should get a star because you've been very good on making motions that helps us out and moves the meeting along. Thank you. All those in favor of adopting the recommendation for the Measure E changes for MJC, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion has carried. And now we'll move to the Columbia College Measure E proposed budget adjustments.
Yes, same thing, and we have three highlighted. Again, I apologize, they aren't on your copies. Closing out Manzanita secondary effects, closing out the Union building upgrade, and closing out entry roads, and moving the contingency from $77,000 to $113,000 for Columbia College.
Okay?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Darren Garrett, seconded by John Rodriguez, that we approve the revised Columbia College Measure E bond project budget adjustments. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion has carried. We'll move on to 6.6, the quarterly report on the district's financial condition. Teresa.
Thank you very much. You have before you this evening our third quarterly report for the fiscal year, which we bring to you and identify the revenues that have been received and as compared to our budgeted revenues. That is the top portion of the schedule. Again, the format, we talk about the font on the format. This is a state format, and we have tried to work with them to get larger fonts. We have not been successful. But anyway, what you're looking at is just the unrestricted general fund here. We have not combined in the categorical special programs, all the Fund 12s. Again, the state is looking at the district statewide, what's happening in our general funds quarterly. Then you'll see the expenditures, you see actual trends, as well as the projected budget for our expenditures. And then moving on down the columns, we look at our FTESs. We haven't had any changes in those columns. We began at 16,542, and we are still reflecting 16,542. When we bring the amended budget to the board next month in June, as well as the tentative budget, we will have some modifications to the FTESs at that time. That'll happen in June. And then we show the cash balances as compared to prior periods in for the same quarter. And then finally, we look down and look at the percentages of our adopted budget in revenues, our amended budget in revenues, and then our actuals. And you'll see the revenues actual to date are about 70% of our budgeted revenues. And likewise with expenditures, you're looking at the adopted budget, the amended budget. We made some minor amendments a couple months ago to the budget, and we're looking at about a 73% expenditure to budget ratio at this point in time. And then jumping down to the ending fund balance, we're looking at about $10,661,000. That fluctuates throughout the fiscal year, obviously, as revenues are coming in at a different pace and the expenditures are going out, with the goal of keeping the 10% reserve in place by the end of the fiscal year. of importance to the state and to all of you is that what we are asked to report any significant material transactions that have taken place during this quarter, subsequent to prior quarter, obviously, and did we issue any debt? Do we have any serious deficits that we've identified? Have we had to borrow funds for cash flow? And we answer there, no. And then finally, the state asks all of our districts statewide, do we anticipate any significant difficulties in our budget for the upcoming year? And we are answering no for next year and no for this year. That's what we want to see. It's been very rare we've had to say yes. I think maybe once or twice over many, many years, we've had to identify to the state. When we do, when that happens with any district, then the state will begin just by phone calls to the districts on how are you going to handle those problems. But I'm happy to report to you this evening that we are not facing that for YCCD. And then finally, we do our report that is on the following page, where we break down in greater detail the major object codes or major sources of revenue budgeted and then actually received, and similarly the major units in the district for the expenditures. And we look at the Modesto Junior College budget to what they have spent, Columbia to what they have spent to date, and same with Central Services. All of those, we also show how that pattern took place in the prior year, and so we can track percentages that might be out of whack if they were. But currently, we're looking at everything pretty much on target for the third quarter. I did mention we'll be bringing an amended budget to you for the current year, as well as the tentative budget for next year. And then following that in September, once we close the books and have all the liabilities addressed, then we will bring you the final budget in September. But our fiscal year does begin July 1, and we're in good shape. The closing's going very well. The auditors will be coming in, and we feel very comfortable with the year end this year. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address those. And then we do need to file this both with the state and the county.
Well, but just before you do, Abe, I'd like to conduct a public hearing. So the public hearing is open. If anyone would like to speak, this is something you can come up and you don't have to have filled out a card. And seeing no one, the public hearing is closed. Okay, Abe. Okay, it's been moved by Abe that we accept the staff recommendation.
Second.
Seconded by Darren Garrett. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion has carried. Okay. Now we'll move on to 6.7, the Modesto Junior College and Career Access Pathways Partnership Agreement, which is a second reading. And in conducting this second reading, the board is to take comments from the public before we approve this. So I will ask again, are there comments from the public about this? If so, you're welcome to come. But if they're not, we'll move on. So is there a motion to approve the pathway agreement?
So moved.
It's been moved by Darren Garrett and seconded by
Second.
John Rodriguez. Thank you. To accept the partnership agreement. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion has carried. And very similar, we're going to do a second reading on the partnership agreement with Ceres Unified. Okay. It's been moved by Abe Rojas and seconded by Darren Garrett. You guys are really getting this good tonight. You deserve a lot of credit. I really appreciate that. Again, are there any comments from the public regarding this agreement? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion has carried. And 6.8, Columbia College, College and Career Access Pathways, second reading. Okay, are there public comments? If not, a motion to approve is in order.
So moved.
It's been moved by Darren Garrett and seconded by,
Second.
ooh, two.
You could have it.
Okay, we'll give that one to Lynn. Lynn Martin, please. So you don't get in a rut there typing the names. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. Motion has carried. Let me find our next thing. All right, now we're to the board policies. Tonight, we just have first readings. And so Connie, we'd like to have you come up and take the podium and we, on Monday, had the Policies and Procedures Committee meeting, and we spoke, we went over these. This is our first official committee, and so we discussed the various policies, and I suspect that most of what we change will be brought up by Connie, but we will, at our next meeting, elect our officers for this committee, and then whoever is elected president. The committee is myself, Lynn Martin, and Leslie Beggs, and we'll pick a chair and vice chair to report out of the committee starting July. Okay, thank you.
Is there any on these that are shown, any controversy on any of them?
Yes, and Connie will she always takes wonderful minutes about things we discussed and need to bring to the full board.
Well, thank you to the board and to the chancellor. We have moved from an ad hoc committee, right? When we first started this, implemented this policy review process, we put together an ad hoc committee of the board with 3 trustees. And now we've gotten to a place where we refine that implementation and we refine the process. And so we've moved into now a board standing committee for policies to review policies before they come here before the full board. And so with that, we had a first reading of 10 policies on Monday. And there were 3 that had comments, so I can go ahead and just jump into those 3. The first one was 3518, reporting of crimes. So if you can go to 3518, reporting.
It's child abuse.
Oh, sorry,
reporting.
3515, reporting of crimes. I'll give you a chance to get there. So on that policy, line 8, a recommendation was made by Trustee Beggs to remove the phrase of any arrests. So just reading the whole sentence, the chancellor shall assure that, as required by law, reports are prepared of all occurrences reported to campus safety and security, of any arrests for crimes committed on campus, and then it goes on. And so the recommendation was made, like I said, to remove that phrase of any arrests. Since that time, I went ahead and looked at the Ed Code that's referenced there, and that is Ed Code 67380. And this language is lifted directly from that Ed Code section. And so in order to be in compliance with the law and that Ed Code, that's the language that we do need on that board policy.
I'd appreciate it if you'd explain why she wanted it changed, though.
Well, am I on?
Yes.
The point that we were making was we wanted to know about crimes for which an arrest wasn't made. Somebody got away or whatever, and we wanted those crimes to be reported also.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that at the committee meeting. I was actually able to talk with our Director of Security and Emergency Preparedness, and he did let me know that he has been working with Trustee Garrett over the last several months and has been reporting on a monthly basis safety statistics, campus safety statistics, including crimes, and also things like, escorts to cars and things like that. And so I don't know if
will those be
share that
made
with the
public?
full board.
I got one report initially, and I know there was still some processes to work out as far as putting that information together, so that's fine. My feedback is to start including that in the consent calendar for the entire board. So I think that would be helpful.
So
And
I'll make
nothing
that-
that we need to take action on, but just as an informational item.
So I'll make that recommendation to staff, and meanwhile, that's separate here, separate from the policy here, but I'll go ahead and take that recommendation back.
So that takes care of my concern here.
Awesome. Okay. Well, there we go. Thank you. So we'll leave that as is, leave in that phrase of any arrests. Okay, and then moving on to 3518, child abuse reporting. So also on that policy, one of the comments that came forward is that we want to tighten up the policy language and kind of defining what is a policy. A policy is the what, and that's what the board sets, and then the procedure is sort of the how, right, in really oversimplified terms. And so the committee requested that we add some language to 3518 in the policy, and you see that in red. I think you all have that up at the dais.
It's right there.
So it's a more affirmative statement, and it reads, "The board recognizes that employees have the obligation under law to report suspected child abuse and neglect of children, and directs the," goes on to kind of where we were, "chancellor to establish and ensure procedures are in place related to the responsibility of employees within the scope of employment or in their professional capacity to report suspected abuse and neglect of children." So adding to that. Hearing no questions there, I'll go on to the last one that had comment, and that is 6305 reserves. So just to give a little bit of history for the board, back in September, and we have new board members that have joined us since then, so I wanted to provide this history. Back in September 2016, as the board was reviewing their special priorities, a special priority was on the books to maintain a minimum of a 10% unrestricted general fund reserve. And that had been a reoccurring special priority of the board, and it is also documented in our strategic plan for the district, which was developed through a participatory governance process. And so the board at that time said, how do we codify this special priority? How do we make sure that this lasts? This is something that we want to do. And so a recommendation was made to make this a board policy. And so at that time, the board directed me to develop this. So we put together some language based on the special priority and also our district strategic plan. And this is the language here. One thing that I do need to make sure that the board is aware of, and you'll see the comment in the upper left-hand corner, and I'll just read that. Through the constituency review process, the YFA and MJC and academic senates wanted me to make sure that I convey that they do not support this board policy unless the minimum, in quotes, be removed such that the reserve is maintained at 10%, not higher. Okay. And then
I personally
lastly,
can't agree with that language, so we never know what the future lies.
okay.
Did you share with them what the average reserve is throughout the state of California for community colleges?
We talked about it in generalities, but I know Executive Vice Chancellor Teresa Scott has more information on that, and I'm sure she can share with us the percentage number here now if we want to do that.
I'd like to have you share that. If you have it, I don't, we can come back if you need to find it. Great.
On the general fund reserve statewide from 13-14 through 15-16. We're not finished with 16-17. And so the statewide average in 13-14 was 17.6, and by 15-16, the statewide average is at 22.5.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What I was saying is the analysis that school services made on community colleges statewide compares 13-14 through 15-16, and the statewide average in 13-14 for the unrestricted general fund reserve was 17.6%, and the statewide average for 15-16 was 22.5%.
Thank you, Teresa, for sharing that. I appreciate that.
And so lastly, the board standing committee made the recommendation on line 11 to add the phrase to the Board of Trustees. So this would ensure that should that projected balance fall below the 10%, the Chancellor and Executive Vice Chancellor shall recommend a plan to the Board of Trustees to restore the district's unrestricted general fund, and it goes on from there. And those were the three that we had comments on. Do you have questions on those or any others?
I have some additional comments. They didn't result in changes, but just this comment to the front row there, dealing with faculty on the copyright. One of the things in the procedure, it talks about as needed. There's an intellectual property policy and rights committee. I don't know the last time that it was organized, but this is very difficult to understand. It's a very complicated procedure that was written by faculty. If anybody ever wanted to take on simplifying it, I'd be thrilled with that. And the other thing is that I liked very much the change that the committee came up with to the child abuse reporting, where we actually had some statement in the policy other than just the chancellor will come up with a procedure. So there's nothing ready tonight from the committee, but when we come back for the second reading of this, it's my hope, I can't guarantee that'll happen, but some of the policies that just say the chancellor shall do the procedure, I think we need a statement like we changed that we have to have a policy where the board has something to follow instead of just saying, this is my opinion. So I'd like to have that. I don't have anything prepared tonight, but hopefully I'll have that for next time. I just wanted to mention that. So does anyone have any corrections or changes that you'd like to propose for the first reading on any of these? Okay, then, well, let me see what the, I don't think we really need to have a motion for the first reading. If there are no objections, we'll consider this first reading to have been completed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie, appreciate that. And then we're now to comments from the board. So this is a time to talk about conferences, meetings, and other activities related to district business. And I'll try and keep you awake and goof you up. Let's start with Darren tonight.
Well, since the last meeting, I've gone to 2 board retreats, but I will say this, the 2 events that I attended, other than the board retreats, were quite moving. And I would like to echo President Stern's comments about Richie Rongren. Anybody that was attending the nursing program graduation at the auditorium, if you weren't moved by what the director of that program had to say, and if you weren't moved by Richie himself, boy, you didn't hear the message. That was quite something. And it really, really demonstrated to me the quality of that program and the quality of the people that are running it. Because to take on a challenge like that and to work with that individual and to have him succeed with all of those personal challenges is quite something. And it really demonstrates just what a great program we have and what great faculty and staff that we have. So that's the first one. Second one, the MJC graduation. I made it a commitment I would go to this one, and then next year I'm just going to keep rotating back between the two colleges. So Angie, you'll see me next year at Columbia. But I didn't plan it this way, but I occasionally work out at the, well, I maybe not call it a workout, but I'm at the MJC track on the East Campus. And I happened to be there in the morning when they were setting that up. And Jill was there, and members of her cabinet were there, classified staff were there, and all the work that goes into setting that up. But all their efforts culminated in the main event, which was that night. And boy, every face had a story, and there were a lot of stories there. And we had great representation from the faculty, and it was just, I mean, if you're a trustee and you can make one event a year, go to the graduation, because that's what it's all about. So that's all I did, and that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Lynn, let's hear from you next.
I attended the Tuolumne County Excellence in Teaching Awards dinner where Aaron Negley, next year's Academic Senate President, was honored as Columbia College's Teacher of the Year. And the final chancellor interviews and the finalist chancellor forums at Columbia College. And I attended the Columbia College Fire Academy graduation and the Columbia College graduation. And the Columbia College end of the semester picnic. And I also had a tour of the new health services area, which we saw tonight was the Pinion Building. And the Policies and Procedures new standing committee on Monday.
Thank you. John, I know you've had some.
Yeah, but before that, I attended the Math and Science Award ceremony. It's pretty inspiring to see so many people be good at something I was really bad at. And I'm going to be trying to make myself available once a month. So I'm thinking like the third Friday of every month. I'm going to be at downtown Sam and Dave's Market on I Street, 3 to 4. So if anybody wants to talk.
Okay, thank you. Leslie, I'll come back to you. I'm trying to keep you awake here.
Okay, since the last meeting, I went to the Repast project, which were mealtime conversations arranged by Chad Redwing with students. And it was wonderful. We talked about artificial intelligence and the age of the machine. Then, that was April 13th. Then I went to the Tenure Recognition Awards ceremony at the Little Theater on April 14th. That was wonderful. I attended the board study session on safety and security on April 14th at Columbia College, which also included a faculty sabbatical leave presentation. Went to the MJC Spring Choral Concert on April 21st. The British are coming. They were great. The Chancellor finalist interviews on April 25th and the 27th. The annual Spring School Trustee Dinner on April 26th. This is why my husband doesn't see me anymore. This past Friday, I attended the 6-hour LeaderCast live conference in Atlanta on May 5th, except I did it via live simulcast at the Main Street Chamber in Modesto. And it was fascinating. The featured speakers this year included Tyler Perry, behavioral expert Daniel Pink, Blue Like Jazz author Donald Miller, psychologist Henry Cloud, sports agent Molly Fletcher. It was amazing. I highly recommend this conference. Then there was the Policy and Procedures Committee meeting on May 8th. And I had a Donuts and Dialogue confab co-hosted by student trustee Siegfried in the Mary Stuart Rogers Center. It was wonderful. I love getting to meet people and learning about what matters to them. I'm done.
Thank you. Don.
I attended the security workshop in Columbia, and that's it.
Thank you.
I love following you, Don. But you also attended the two chancellor interviews that we had on the 2 days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Weren't you there? I thought I saw you there.
That thing about being old, isn't it?
And I also attended the MJC graduation, and it was a fantastic event. And it was kind of unusual to see everybody trying to hold on to their top there, their top hat that they had. So I know I lost mine. I saw a few of them going all over along with their diplomas. So it's hard to keep them going. And then I attended our insurance JPA strategic planning that we had in Monterey, and where we were reminded of the concept of risk pooling. That's our insurance. And one of them was, because of it, we have group purchase, we have pooling retained risk, we have homogeneous groups, we share values, we have self-governance, geographic and demographic similarities, and it encourages our safety management and our local control. So it was a great 3-day action-packed event that we had. So I'm glad that I participated in that risk management group.
Okay, thank you, Abe. I'm going to go next because we're going to save the best for last this time. And the advantage of going later is that when somebody mentions something or I have something written down and they don't mention, I can add them in. For one of the things I attended was the MJC tenure ceremony, and John and Leslie also attended. And I didn't remember them saying that, so did you? Okay, I apologize. John was there.
I go to so many things.
I know.
What I go to.
Okay, so we can add that to John's if you like. And I, as most of the others, was at the study session at Columbia, had interviews with the chancellor candidates, and Darren and I were working on negotiations with Henry Young. Attended the SCOE School Board dinner, and Darren also attended that. He realized that he forgot to mention that. So I had a Great Valley Museum board meeting that I attended, and the Policy and Procedure Committee meeting with Connie and Leslie and Lynn, and Siegfried, forgive me, and thank you, and some meetings with Jane. So Siegfried, let's hear your report.
Okay. I attended the Repast Project dinner on April 13th with Leslie. That was also a really great a great event. The Student Leadership Gala, which was on April 19th, the graduation luncheon, which was on April 21st. Both of those were really inspiring events. Amazing to see as many students graduate from the leadership positions they had at MJC as there were. District Council on April 26th. My discrete structures final kept me from attending the board study session on the 27th.
Choice.
Yeah. The commencement ceremony, of course, on the 28th. I met over coffee with Leslie Beggs on May 3rd, and also for last time with Jane Harmon on the 4th. I also attended the LeaderCast conference, which Leslie attended. She actually sponsored me for it. Incredible event. The Standing Policy Committee meeting on May 8th, as well as co-hosting Donuts and Dialogue as well with Leslie again. And then throughout the month, also meeting with Darren, again on the track. In any case, yeah, that's my month.
Okay, thank you, Siegfried. And I just want to remind all of you are invited to reception we have. It'll be in that room for Siegfried. It's a good chance for you to wish him well and thank him for his wonderful service to the board. We really appreciate it. Our next regular meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 14th. Closed session begins at 3:30. Open session at 5:30. It'll be here in this boardroom. So thank you for coming, and meeting is adjourned.